Here with my main man, JJ McCarthy. Now, I came on filling in for you 2 weeks ago and really gassed up the Vikings. I liked them. And you came on this week and hammered the Vikings and JJ McCarthy. Well, the Minnesota media took note and asked JJ McCarthy yesterday about the narrative of his allegedly weak arm strength.
I would say, a lot of it just comes with the stigma of playing at Michigan and, not throwing the ball a lot. But at the same time, it could be my frame and, they don't see a 6'5", 240 guy. So how can he throw at 61 miles an hour at the combine and all that? But at the end of the day, it's going to show up and, the people that know. And, I think it's just, the situations I've been in and maybe, not passing the eye test for some people.
Now, first of all, the word I used to describe his arm strength was modest. He's got a modest arm. It's okay. It's Kirk Cousins-ish. Okay. It's not a bad arm. He doesn't have a noodle arm.
Time out. Let me just interject with a fact. At the combine, he had the second highest velocity on his throws, 61 miles an hour, behind only your immortal hero, Joe Milton. Remember with the Patriots, now I believe with the Cowboys. So carry on.
No, again, his arm is fine. Do I think it's Allen, Mahomes, Stafford? Do I think it's – no, I don't. I think it'll be somewhere between, 12th and 17th in the league. It'll be fine. He's got a fine – I watched them at Michigan. His arm is okay. His arm is Shedeur Sanders. It won't be an issue. It won't be a strength. It's fine.
Yeah, I would push back on that. But let me move on to the next element of this J.J. McCarthy thing. So obviously the media was really excited about this. I'm not kidding. They took your word and were grilling McCarthy. Do you think, honestly, he turned the hat backwards because he knows that's a thing you don't like? I'm being dead serious, Colin.
No. I don't think he's aware of that. A lot of people do that.
This is like a running joke among players. The hat backwards. It's a real thing. You made that.
Well, they know I have had to lecture a handful of players through the years when I see them in person. I've told them I don't like it. I told Bo Nix, don't do that. But nobody listens to me. And I think, again, I don't know what – I said this yesterday. I like mystery with my true crime series, not with my quarterbacks. I just like to – I'm getting a lot of conflicting reports. Much like Shedeur Sanders, he got a great landing spot. Justin Jefferson, a great left tackle, and Kevin O'Connell. And just like Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski. Like, that helps. So do I think that helps? Do I think it's harder to be Caleb Williams with Matt Eberflus than JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix that get an offensive coach? I think that's about 50% of the game for these young quarterbacks is who do you land with, chaos or an offensive guy? So I'm not saying it's not going to work. I see mystery. His arm is modest.
But we should have seen Patrick Mahomes getting the gifted landing spot of Andy Reid. And, oh, by the way, that guy, I believe his name was Tyreek Hill, who was an electrifying, game-breaking receiver at the time. So, Mahomes, he got it better than J.J. McCarthy's got it. And he got to sit for a year behind Alex Smith. That's about as good as it gets. Let's get to the...
Okay. I got to be honest. I actually really love that J.J. McCarthy has become polarizing. I'm all for it, honestly. I really am. I like when players who are polarizing, who I think are like fundamentally like really good people, or I think they have a high chance of success, because it then makes when they succeed, it just feels it's so much more enjoyable to kind of like do that victory. I'd rather do a victory lap about that rather than being like, I told you so, this guy was a low life and was going to find himself out of the league by next year. Like that's like that, it feels like you're kind of rooting against someone in a way. And I really try not to do that. But, it's, first off, like there's a few main points I really want to hit here. First, to get this out of the way, and I've said this so many different times, but like when we say like, oh, he doesn't have a big arm like Stafford and Allen, you start naming these quarterbacks, and it's like, these guys legitimately have all-time great arms. Seriously. I mean, like that is the reality, is that you're naming quarterbacks who have some of like the most spectacular arms we have ever seen in the history of the NFL. So it's like, again, it's like, what standard are we creating here? That you have to be in the conversation as having one of the greatest arms in the history of the NFL, or it's like, meh, or you're nothing. And now we're like starting to compare him to Shedeur Sanders. Like, It's like, what are we doing, man? Like, come on. It just doesn't make sense. And the whole hat forwards and hat backwards, like, I actually do agree with Colin. Like, I am big on personality, how you present yourself at the mic. It's not so much a hat backwards versus a hat forwards thing, because like, it's a little bit different, but it is kind of like an energy and how serious, or I think you can wear your hat backwards and still be very serious and focused and whatnot. So I think it really all depends, because my big takeaway actually, and obviously nothing to do with the hat backwards, but when he gave his answer, he gave such an amazing answer at the mic, and the way how he delivered it and his smile, like, it was, first off, it was just a calm, comfortable confidence. It wasn't a projection. It wasn't insecurity. I just talked about this with Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer, go watch JJ McCarthy talk at the mic, and you know what? Take lessons from the young guy who's like, what is he, like 22? Like, go take lessons. As someone who's 51, you can go learn a thing or two. All right. Like that, like I literally just made a whole video talking about like authentic confidence and authenticity and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, he gave a perfect name. He didn't say, yeah, we'll just wait until I get on the field and this. Like, he wasn't challenging anyone. He wasn't like saying, oh, well, that's people who don't know what they're, I only listen to people who actually know what they're talking about, or, like, it was just nothing. And the way he said it was like, yeah, I don't know. Some people, maybe it's because, I'm not 6'4" or this or that, and they don't realize, like, it was charming. It was comfortable. It was confident, but like not conceited. Like, it was great. Honestly, it's the answer that I like to think the type of answer that I would like to give. So like, granted, that's why it probably resonates with me more, but I'll be honest. I don't know if I was in his position at that age, I probably would have not been able to give that answer. I probably would have been like, come fight me, bro. I probably would have had a little bit more Baker Mayfield energy than JJ McCarthy. So like, that's an old soul answer. And again, it was a lighthearted answer too. There was a big smile to it. And again, that stuff matters. I'm telling you, that stuff does legitimately matter. I mean, it's not everything. At the end of the day, you got to be able to ball. I always say you either ball or you can't. So it's like, it's not everything, but it's not nothing either. And I know someone like Colin, the whole hat forward, hat backwards, that matters to him. So the way how he delivered that answer then should matter to him as well. That is maturity. I'm not going to go on a whole rant about like the arm strength and this, because we've already talked about that. And it's just funny to me because, again, Bo Nix had the same thing. Everyone was talking about his arm. And now all last year, people are like, whoa, his arm's so much better than I realized. Like, whoa, where did his arm really surprised a lot of us. I think he had the record in the NFL last season for the longest air yard, the longest pass via air yards. And, so it was just like, and what's his face? Travis O'Shea talks a lot about this, where he's like, this whole arm strength idea, specifically like the deep ball. And also, that's also the interesting. When people talk about arm strength, like sometimes they're talking about like, can you let it rip down the field? Do you have a lot of velocity on the pass? And they do different things. Like sometimes you got to get the ball out and it's got to get to your receiver, in a snap, right? The tight window, quick 5-yard throws. And sometimes we're talking about arm strength. We're talking about like, can you throw the ball to the back of the end zone? Like, what do you got here? And so some of these words that people use seemingly kind of have different definitions at different moments. But Travis O'Shea kind of talked about that these like deep balls are, and a lot of times like they're overrated in a lot of ways because, we call them 50-50 balls for a reason. And most of the time they're not. Usually like the best 50-50 ball throwers usually are right around 50-50, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes, I did a whole video about this where his deep ball, all his throws over, I think it was like over 20 yards or so. When you use like the adjusted completion percentage, so it's really like it's neutralizing how good of your receivers are, drops. It's just like, have you been accurate on the deep ball? And he hasn't had a lot of success over the last couple of years. And it's like, and he's been to multiple Super Bowls and he won the Super Bowl the one year. So it's just like, as great as it is to have a quarterback who has a big giant arm, I get it, but and also even in terms of arm strength and velocity on the ball, it's like you have you have a lot of receivers sometimes who are like, don't throw the ball. So when I'm like 5 yards out, like you gotta like, I literally just listened to a podcast where Deshaun Jackson would talk about that with Vic, where he was like, bro, I'm right here. Like, I get it, you got a cannon, but like, come on, man, like I can catch anything, but like, give me a break here. So it's like, it's always kind of a conversation a little bit. Like I don't know. I don't see being a great quarterback always just check. Like I don't always see it that way. I think there's some of that, and that is why for the most part the NFL is, highly successful at drafting the quarterbacks, developing them, and finding the ones that should legitimately start and be great in the NFL. But it's not 100%. It's not all or nothing. It's not, everything you can just see with your eyes or everything that you can quantify in a combine or just watching some film like it. Otherwise we would have it down to like perfection, and everybody would know this quarterback will be a starter, this quarterback won't. And yeah, we need a quarterback, but like we have a draft pick in the first round. We can draft John Smith, but he's clearly like, yes, he's technically the second best quarterback in this draft. He's not an NFL quarterback. We're not going to waste our draft. We're not going to waste our pick and play this game. We got to just wait to next year. That's just the way it goes. And like, they don't really have that answers. Like, and so that's, to me, that's kind of more proof that we know a lot, but don't know everything. So, it's like at this point with JJ McCarthy, I'm kind of just like, really my full take at the end of the day is really like, I'm just at the wait and see moment. And it doesn't mean that we don't talk about it, because I always, take issue when people are like, why are we even talking about this? It doesn't matter until we start playing games. And I'm like, well, then we're just not supposed to talk about football. We're not supposed to talk about sports from now until then. Like, that's no fun either. But my conclusion with when we start to kind of really zero in on some of these things, like arm strength and this, that, I'm just like, let's just wait. Like that is what I'm like, can we just let him play football in the NFL before we start drawing such firm, strong conclusions? Like, let's chill. And I do got to go back. I haven't had the time where I want to go back and really watch and see what some people were saying about JJ when he was first drafted. I've said this many times, but it's like I believed Sam Darnold was definitely going to start and whatnot, but I didn't feel like JJ was that polarizing when he got drafted. I just don't recall people really being like, well, how good is this guy really going to be? They definitely did it with Bo Nix. They definitely did it with Caleb Williams as well. Less so Jaden Daniels. Penix, people didn't really talk about him that much, honestly. Really only when he first got drafted, and it was really in conversation around because of Kirk Cousins and all of that. Like, it was really because of the controversy of paying a quarterback all that money and then drafting someone. And, JJ, I mean, I feel like the takes were, for the most part, neutral/positive. And now it feels like the takes are, for the most part, neutral/negative. You definitely have some positives. Orlovsky's been very high on him. J-Mac, as he just said, just have been high on him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm finally excited to see him like legitimately on the field and playing. But yeah, some of the conversations around this. But when I see his, him in front of the mic, I personally have been very impressed in that regard. So I'm excited to see what this all translates to on the field. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about JJ McCarthy? Speculation about his arm strength. What arm strength actually means at the end of the day, in an NFL game for an NFL career. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.